Can you hear me? Beautiful. How are you doing this morning? Okay. This is going to be as interactive as possible because, as you will see very soon, I'm quite camera shy. I was actually meant to be here with a friend, but she couldn't make it. However, you get to see we're glad to be here. So I'm representing both of us. Okay. Cool. So meet Ndubuisi, or you can call me Andy if that's too difficult for you to pronounce. But yeah, points for pronouncing it properly like Daniel did earlier today. Interesting fun fact about me that I've been telling my colleagues here for a bit. Austria, that I came into last night, will be the third country I've been to in 31 years. Can you believe that? It's crazy. I was born in Nigeria. I work in London right now, and this has given me the opportunity to get some stamps on my passport. He's also camera shy, like right now. I've been told, look into the camera. So hello, audience, not in Vienna. This is a global conference, and we are all happy to be here. Gwen, and this was kind of my fun fact, or a contrast to my fun fact, is much more cooler than I am. She's been to over 16 countries, and I'm hoping most of you have a similar travel history because the success of this presentation depends on that happening. So let's play a quick game. You know how auctions work where, it's like, okay, how many of you are going to go for this particular item? Let's say this glass of water. And then it's like, oh, do I get 200 in the back, 300 in the back? How many of you have up to 2 travel apps installed on your phone right now? How about 3? 4? 5? 10? Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, I was a bit fast with that one. Okay, so this is where I'm going with this. Imagine the last time you went on a group trip with friends. I'm also hoping most of you travel in groups. Otherwise, again, success of this presentation. Just think about what you had to go through in terms of like process flow, right? So first of all, there was like the big idea. Where do we want to go? Let's start discussing it. Let's figure out, is it going to be Vienna? Is it going to be Paris? Is it going to be, I don't know, Belgium? And then how did you do that? You did that by maybe creating a WhatsApp group or using Notion to sort of like put together ideas, or probably Discord, or you were just having lots of phone calls, which probably was painful. And then you got to the point where you were like, okay, now we've locked this in. Let's try and book stuff like flights, where to stay, how we're going to go around, experiences we're going to have, etc. And it was after all of this, then the big thing came. Who's going to pay for this trip? How many of you are the ones that pay and then start chasing your friends for money? That's crazy. How many of you contribute before you pay? I thought as much. So eventually, if you're able to get past that hurdle of actually getting your friends to pay or chasing them after the trip, you do go on that trip. And of course, it involves getting your passports, all your documents, everything ready, and then having fun. As financial institutions, as challenger banks, etc., you can see we are somewhere in the middle of a lot of discussions, a lot of processes going on that happens on a daily basis with life. There's always a story connecting what we end up paying for before we pay for it. And for a long time, we've been great at facilitating this journey for the user when they are ready to pay. Interestingly, all of your transactions, as you know, have their stories too. I think Chris mentioned something about Starbucks earlier today and how he used to work there before. Before you decide you want to get a cup of coffee, a good cup of coffee, you're probably thinking, not Starbucks. But eventually, if you do decide to go to Starbucks, then you pay. Same thing with booking an Airbnb. You figure out all those other stuff, and then you're like, okay, yeah, now I'm going to pay. Or you're a stockbroker or crypto enthusiast, and you decide, yes, I'm going to buy this, I'm going to buy the dip, I'm going to hold whatever it is, but you pay after you've gone through all the literature, after you've read the Bitcoin paper, and then you pay. Essentially, what I've been trying to say for the past couple of minutes is money moves where and when life moves. I've not been the most avid traveler, as I mentioned earlier, but when Daniel and his team gave me the opportunity to be here, I decided to move. I spent money to get a cab from the airport to the airport and from the airport to my hotel because I had to be here. I wanted to see you lovely faces today, even though I wasn't the greatest of travelers. Money moved because life moved me here. And I'm sure that's the same for every one of you. But what if we started helping our users actually from the outset? What if we stopped being the side chick and decided that we wanted to be there along with them from the outset when they're deciding? We're speaking today about shaping the future of finance, and for so long we've been the money holders, the ones that tell you, trust us, and when you're ready to spend, we'll be there for you. When you're ready to send, we'll be there for you. But what if we took a step back and said, how can we help you do all of this right where your money lives? Interestingly, as some of you may already know, this is already happening in the banking industry. I don't know how many of you have heard of PayPal Honey, for example. It's this extension that sort of helps you with product discovery, gives you coupon codes. You see a lot of it going on when you try to browse or purchase stuff, for some of you that might have heard of it. A more interesting one is JP Morgan being the top 5 provider of consumer travel in the US. Who would imagine that? Well, they did. And so it's not that quite novel for you to see banking or bankers or challenger banks or neobanks or even legacy banks saying we want to do much more than store your money and help you send it. And so I'll try and talk a bit about one of the ways that we at Revolut have tried to do this and what we've learned along the way. So as many of you might already be aware of, we started out as more of a travel card provider, travel anywhere, spend in any currency. And that's sort of been at the cornerstone of what we've been doing over the past couple of years. And one way we are constantly trying to help our customers is listening to them speak, as well as seeing how they spend and exploring verticals that fall within those categories that we can innovate, that we can provide better experiences for them, that we can walk with them from the outset. And so why did we do Stays? Stays was birthed based on the fact that we noticed over time that travel was one of the most popular account purposes that we had. And so we did a bit of digging to understand, okay, if we were to provide utility in this space, if we were to start from the outset to help our customers, what will we do? Do we focus on flights? Do we focus on stays? Do we focus on travel insurance? What will be the most impactful thing that we could do? And essentially, we saw that most of the transaction volume was going to stays. I'm not going to bore you with the rest of the research, but we were like, okay, how can we build this embedded experience into a financial app? Well, I was the lead designer on that particular project. Interestingly, there were other products within the travel space that we had, but they were sort of disconnected. So we have Smart Delay that allows you to sort of get access to lounges when your flight is delayed. We had travel insurance as well, but we didn't have that middle part that allowed users to sort of book accommodations right where their money lived. So I'm just going to walk you through a couple of things that we learned along the way while we were trying to explore this space. The first one, start from the intersection between what they love and where reciprocal value lies. So Maylin was talking earlier about buy-in when it comes to like being able to sell as a designer. It's easier to sell an idea about what you want to do, to innovate, to connect the dots, if you will, to a company when you're able to show that they will get benefits from it as well. Banks are not charities. So essentially, when we were trying to like build this out, we needed to figure out what can we give to our customers, first of all. And then secondly, how can we also use this to grow the business? First, the customer. Second, the business. So we needed to figure out what's the value that we can give to our users that would be beneficial to them to the point where they feel that they can start their journey right here in the same app where their money lives. And so this leads me to the second point, which is clearly defining what your unique selling points would be as a bank offering a service that they get elsewhere. Essentially, excuse me, you need to figure out how to stand out in a crowded space by wearing a bright color. What is the thing that you're going to give to your customers that they won't get elsewhere? Is it cashback? Is it essentially being able to book now, pay later? What is it that you would give to your customers that they would not get elsewhere? Sounds quite easy, right? But it's very core to what we ended up building. And so we wanted to say, our vision for you is that you can experience everything regarding travel in one space. So I mentioned earlier when I was asking you guys about like how many travel apps you have, making these decisions here and there. Imagine if all of that happened within the same space and you didn't have to think about 15 apps. You just wanted to be able to say, yes, we want to go to the Bahamas. So we're going to like find the stays here, find the flights here, do everything we want to do, and not have to like worry about who is paying because we can easily make requests or split bills right where the money lives. The third point was to remember to design with familiar paradigms and leverage popular brand association where possible. So the truth about it, when it comes to innovating in the banking space or trying to like sort of connect the dots from the beginning to the end of the journey when the user pays, is that you're not necessarily going to displace the people that have been doing it for years. So first of all, two things I would like to point out here. One of the things that we had to do was start simple. Figure out what users we're familiar with. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. Build familiarity, and then layer on your differentiation. So it's easy for us to get tempted to sort of like design revolutionary stuff that's like, oh, you guys have been doing it wrong the whole time. But familiarity is powerful. As you can see here, you can see the homepage for Booking.com, the newly redesigned page for Airbnb, and what our stays page looks like today. While everything has its own unique sort of language, you can see that there's a familiar pattern, including showing the user a field where they can stay, where they want to go, when they want to go, who are they going with, and then, of course, in some cases, you see stuff about advertising or loyalty, etc. Another thing we had to build in was allowing users to figure out, or rather to specify what they prefer to go for when it came to booking stays. How did we learn about this? When we built out initial prototypes for this particular product, we did what we like to call guerrilla testing. Pop into a nearby bar, ask people what they think about this particular product. And one of the things that we learned was, are you guys a hotel booking company? I don't see what I usually use, or what I'm usually looking for, rather, which is like holiday rentals, vacation rentals, etc. We initially designed without a screen like this, where users got the perception that we were just selling hotels. Meanwhile, we did have inventory for the other stuff they were looking for because a large chunk of them were Airbnb users. So what did we do? To sort of surface this in a clearer manner, during the search journey, we'll present them with a simple screen where we showed them the most popular property types that they were looking for. And then by specifying their preference, we remembered what they were looking for and tailored their experience to find it faster. Apart from that, you can see a filter there for free cancellation, which was actually another thing that we did learn that our users were quite interested in, that flexibility to pay when they wanted to pay, when it was convenient for them to pay. And so we tried to present these as early as possible and maintain those settings along the journey. The fourth thing I'd like to point out, which is one of my favorite parts, is enhancing journeys with timely and relevant cross-sells and services to complete loops. This is pretty much what I want to leave you here with today, if you don't remember any other thing. As banking services, why are we even doing this in the first place? Why are we building products that are doing every other thing that people are doing before they come to pay? Because it is one of the best educators on why banking services that you do provide are useful. Why would someone decide to use your payment services or your buy now, pay later, for example, if you don't show them why it can be useful for stuff like booking expensive travels or buying the most expensive laptop that comes out, which obviously you wouldn't want to spend so much money at one point in time. It's easier to sell the value of what you're providing when everything is connected together. And I'll show you a few stuff. For example, I mentioned earlier who pays for the trip, and most of you raised your hands. Imagine a scenario where, because you were doing all the planning in one space, you provide them with the utility to book now or to request funds right within the same space. This is a service that you've probably been offering for years, but maybe you've had low adoption, or maybe people just don't know about it. Maybe it's an awareness problem. But because you've been able to sort of like be with them along the journey, you're able to identify those opportunities at crucial points in time that you wouldn't have found earlier. And because it's integrated, because they know that rather than having a disconnected experience, they can stay in one place, do everything without hassle, not have quarrels with their friends over trivial things like money. You've created an even better experience for them. And then you also have other connected like services that you've built over time, like travel insurance, or cancel for free, or even your credit cards, things that you've built over time, but maybe you've seen they're not picking up as much as you want them to, or you've been spending inordinate amounts of money for advertising. The best way of educating a user in this scenario is to just show them how it works, show them how it connects with you, show them how your money, the thing that you help them store, connects with those things that happen in their daily lives naturally. And then the fifth point, leave them with change so they have a reason to come back. What do you want your users to experience at the end of the journey? Remember, in the beginning, we talked about decision-making, planning, booking, and all of that. It would be a sad thing if at the end of the journey that you've tried to build within an integrated space, they didn't have any reason to come back and use you for that same service. What is it that you're going to leave them with? Is it something as basic as cashback? Is it something as important as the UX of your service? I think a colleague mentioned earlier, the only way of differentiating these days, especially since the core services that banks offer are easy to buy, is the experience. What are you doing for your customers while you are connecting these things that they leave feeling better than they came in? You need to figure that out based on your core offering. You need to find opportunities for new stuff that you can introduce just by identifying and exposing those relationships. and then you need to like shout about it. You need to make sure that they know that this is what you offer. So if it's something as simple as saying what the future of finance is, and I say that ironically because it's quite big, but in my perspective, the future of finance is building interconnected services by connecting the dots right where money lives. Thank you.
Wow. Andy, really such a smooth presentation. Thank you so much. It was really great. We have one remote question for you, and that is, how does Revolut include non-Revolut customers in the whole journey, especially when it comes to splitting bills?
Yep. That's a very good question. It's actually one of the things that we are building and should be launched soon if it's not already, because of course we start to build these services within the closed group, but we know that in reality, it's possible for you to be going on journeys with people that either you don't know or aren't Revolut users, and we want to reduce that friction as much as possible by creating this sort of open or layer on the web where users that still want to perform basic features like splitting bills should be able to do that. Of course, that then gives you the opportunity to sort of say, oh, did you have a great experience with this? Here's more. The core of what I've been trying to say, and I think it's quite highlighted by this question, is you are offering so much to your customers that they don't know about because they've not seen how it relates to them in real life. Like, for example, when people say, I don't know how mathematics is important. But by actually identifying these verticals that touch most of your customers' lives and that have reciprocal value, you have a whole new world where you can educate them and drive up these things. So yeah, regarding the question, we do have a web way of like splitting the bill, and then we try and find ways to onboard those customers from there.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We still have one, so we had time for one more question.
Yeah, we do have time.
Let's see if there is any question from the audience. If so, please. There we have one question, please.
Yeah.
And the second one there. Yeah.
Hi. Thank you for the presentation. So I visited 10 times more countries than you. Yeah, thank you. I am Booking.com Genius Level 3.
Okay.
But I'm also a Revolut customer.
Yep.
What is your unique selling point? For me, what is your hook? Why should I book via Revolut app?
Yep.
For example.
Okay.
Because some of the hotels, they provide me 20% off.
Yeah.
Because of the level 3
Yeah.
loyalty program.
Yeah, that's fair. So is that the core thing that keeps you on Booking.com? And I'm not going to make this about Booking.com versus Revolut, don't worry. So is it about the discount?
Not. Maybe it's more about experience, that I'm so familiar with this service. And yeah, so I use Revolut on daily basis, as well as Booking.
Yep. So it's less about the property discovery and more about familiarity and then the well-communicated benefits.
Yeah, because you are interested in selling hotels to me, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we offer, or we have a couple of things. Those discounts you get, when we do partner with people, we also offer those same discounts. But on top of that, we offer cashback. But it's less about the monetary value and more about the connected services, right? So I've been mentioning in this talk, there are so many things that you can do all in one space with Revolut, whether it's like travel insurance, smart delays, stuff that are connected just by virtue of being a Revolut customer that you don't necessarily get when you are just like focusing on one particular app for travel. So imagine the benefits that you get on those apps transferred along with all the other attendant benefits of doing the transactions where your money lives, being able to pay directly from your account without having to like use a card or remember your card details, being able to split the bill easily with friends in the same space where your money lives. So it's all about like identifying those things that are important to you in life. And we're not scared of partnerships, by the way. It's not about us versus them. is about bringing what's the most important to you and keeping it in the same space where your money lives. Because, like I mentioned earlier in the talk, almost everything we do in life is connected to our money. So why not do everything there?
Well, thank you. Isn't it
I'm very sorry.
Yeah, please. Isn't it the direction to become a super app?
Absolutely.